While more emphasis is placed on the importance of higher education, the financial barriers to entry continue to increase as public and private universities face recessive public funding. Through this project, I will attempt to answer the question of how the privatization of the social costs and risks regarding education contributes to the achievement gap between members of different economic classes. The privatization of the social costs of education contributes to the achievement gap because it increases the barriers to entry for students seeking both early access and university-level education by placing the financial burden on the individual and by creating unreasonably high societal standards for achievement. A recent journal article out of Stanford University discusses the importance in growing and maintaining equal access to higher education across economic groups to maintain education as a method of social mobility. One of the key findings of the study is that the education gap begins as early as kindergarten. Research shows that early access to education can have dramatic positive effects on children's academic development and plays a fundamental role in determining if they will continue on to higher education. However, not all preschools are completely publicly funded. The National Association of Child Care Resources reports the typical cost of a year of preschool to be between $4,000 and $13,000 per child. We as a society push for a more educated populace, however, we are unwilling to help one another in achieving these goals. Sean Reardon, the author of the Stanford study, makes the claim that while wealthy families have more resources to fund their children's education and development, it is the responsibility of the government to equalize the gap via the education system by providing support for those families in need, which has grown to include a greater percentage of American households. The Obama administration placed a heavy emphasis on funding programs such as the Head Start initiative. The much-debated program that started in the Bush White House is supposed to help low-income families afford preschool. Today, many states such as Georgia and New York offer free public school. However, nationally, 25% of 4-year-olds are still unable to attend school due to the cost. Years later, when the students are applying for college, there is a yes or no question on the application to let the school know if they will be applying for financial aid. As explained to me by my college counselor when I was going through the process, your answer to this question has long-term implications and may play a role in determining what schools you are accepted to. The system of higher education was created to educate the elite social classes during a time when there wasn't even a public school system for the majority of people to attend. The public school system that we know today has only been around for the past 200 years or so, and for the majority of its history, college was only a valid option for a select few. Today, the common belief is that to be successful, you must go to college, no matter your financial background. But unless you qualify for financial aid, you are responsible for paying for your own education. The social costs extend to other aspects of the young people's lives by creating unwanted stress and perpetuating the belief that college is necessary for a good life when it was never meant to be applied to the general population. Sir Ken Robinson argues that we are guiding students down a path that does not exist anymore. The thought process used to be, you go to college and you get a job. This isn't the case anymore. Yes, a degree helps, but is no guarantee of a good job. In the process, many students enter college underprepared or disinterested, but go because they are told they have to. Amy Gutman, the current president of the University of Pennsylvania, notes that the top 20% of students in regards to economic resources make up over half of all students at top-rated universities. She argues that the responsibility for the growing achievement gap is not with the sticker price, but a lack of affordability due to reductions in federal resources and grants. A recent study out of the University of Arizona looks at the economics of a higher education, and it labels students as consumers and universities as the suppliers. The author's research depicts that a major factor for students in considering the value of education is the tuition price versus the actual cost of attendance. When determining the long-term value of higher education, the form of financial aid is front and center. It is the primary factor in determining the difference between tuition and the actual cost of attendance. This plays a strong role in the decision process because students recognize the future cost or lack thereof when granted financial aid. For those struggling to pay for college but do not qualify for grants or scholarships, student loans are their only option. While student loans allow more students to attend college, those same students leave with massive amounts of debt that perpetuate the financial achievement gap between those who can afford college and those who can't. As of 2017, Debt.org totaled the total U.S. student debt to be above $1.4 trillion, and that the average student left with above $35,000 worth of student debts. As insurance to the banks, government regulation makes this debt unavoidable. It must be repaid. Not even bankruptcy can expunge someone of this debt. The implications of my research is that we, as a society, are sending underqualified students to our universities and are preventing qualified students from a quality college education almost exclusively based on an ability to pay the price of tuition. In a highly competitive capitalistic society such as ours, individuals are incentivized to take actions that provide direct benefit to themselves and their immediate family. If these individualistic trends are left uninterrupted, over time, as society begins to expect more out of its citizens, they will be left with diminishing communal resources because people see their accomplishments as their own and neglect to acknowledge the support they had along the way. Lasting impact will require fundamental structural changes to the way we finance education and admit students to our universities. The first thing we need is a needs-blind admissions process that admits students that are the most highly qualified rather than those who can pay. Secondly, we need a federally funded preschool system nationwide to narrow the achievement gap at a young age. I believe that students and their parents will be most interested in this research because it directly affects their future economic, social, and professional well-being. With the most skin in the game, they are the most likely to organize and demand change from lawmakers regarding the future of education. The income achievement gap, if left unchallenged, has the potential to develop into a permanent gap between the general population and a highly educated elite, further dividing the nation based on wealth.